Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to another episode of Spirit Lift Sundays. Such a great day to be here. Thank you for joining me. And sorry for the late start. I'm still trying to work things out. I was up a bit late last night, having beautiful conversations with beautiful friends who I haven't seen for a few years. So I'm getting a little bit of a late start today on the show. And as usual, I kind of tuned in this morning, and I always ask Spirit what message wants to move through me. And the message that I've been hearing today that I need to talk about is divine intervention. And so the reason I want to talk about this is because there's a not really a misconception, but more of a wishful thinking, I guess, that somehow divine intervention is only from someone or something outside of ourselves. So what's been happening on the planet, since the beginning of time, I guess, we set up our rockets of desire. People have asked God, Spirit, Source, Allah, whatever an individual's name is, for Spirit, for assistance, for divine intervention whenever there are issues in our lives that we feel disempowered or unable to navigate on our own. So the voices of humanity have been heard, sending up requests to God, to the guardians, to guides, to galactic forces, asking anyone who's out there to help us. And I think a lot of people are really starting to understand the situation that our planet is in. So our planet is in dire straits, and it is across every possible platform and system. And the reason our planet is in such dire straits is because the people have not been given the whole truth. You know, they're saying, no, the truth shall set you free. So we're at a time in our collective of humanity where humanity is ready to be set free from the fear-based reality that we've been living in. My understanding, it's been about 11,000 years. So as the planet cycles around the galaxy, on the dark side of the galaxy, we've then had, the darkness has been a controller on our planet for the last 11,000 years. And it doesn't happen overnight. This is what I find interesting. So sorry, my computer just made a funky noise. Sorry about that. So when this first came to me about 10 years ago, what Spirit was telling me is that between 10 and 12,000 years, that's when fear and darkness came to the planet. Because nothing happens overnight. Everything on our planet is evolves from what occurred before us. We move through time on our planet that is unique to our planet. So pinpointing a specific time is really difficult because nothing happens in an instant on the physical plane. So it takes, my understanding, close to 26,000 years for the planet to go around the galaxy. And there's a light side of the galaxy and the dark side of the galaxy. So we're now starting to move back into the light side of the galaxy. And that is one of the reasons that more light is coming to the planet. We're going through a photon belt, more light's coming to the planet. The sun is more active, more light's coming to the planet. The gamma rays are coming, that's more light coming to the planet. So our planet is starting to be bombarded with light. And as more light comes onto the physical field, more of the darkness that's on our planet is going to be exposed so that it can be remedied and it no longer has a control over our human experience. And so that's where we are. And so people have been sending up their prayers, their requests, asking for help. And those requests have been heard. The prime directive, again, on our planet is free will choice. So, well, now it's conscious free will choice. My understanding is that the word conscious has been now is the prime directive, which means that that anything that has been that's been held under wraps, that's been hidden in closets and behind closed doors, needs to start being brought to the surface for all of humanity to recognize, so that human beings can make a conscious choice. And with conscious choice comes greater responsibility, because then every human being understands how the game is really being played. And then we accept the consequences of our choices. So up until now, our choices, for the most part, have been blind compliance. We don't get the whole story about what the consequences are of our choices. We're just given enough information to make a choice, but not a conscious choice. So, so that, I understand, has changed, and we're going to start to see that shift on our planet. My understanding is very soon where the darkness is going to be exposed publicly. And that's part of the divine intervention. I know that's what a lot of people have been asking for. And what a lot of people, I don't think, understand, and here's the real catch-up. We are the divine intervention we seek. So people have been asking for divine intervention from everyone about outside of themselves. They want the government to intervene on our behalf, even though the government's like part of the cause, part of the problem, right? Or they want God to intervene on our behalf, not understanding that we are all aspects of God within ourselves, or want the angels to intervene, not understanding that the angels are actually here on planet Earth amongst us. So we are actually divine intervention. So if we want the darkness on our planet to be exposed, and we want all of the corruption to be brought to the surface, and we want all of the truth to be brought out, it's up to us to ask for it and to be a part of that intervention. It's interesting. So what I'm seeing right now is, how there's a drug intervention, right? There's a member of the family who's a drug addict, and the rest of the family gets together and does an intervention. It's like that. It's like enough of us on the planet become the intervention that demands the entities on our planet basically get help and stop being addicted to the fear and the control. And so that's up to us. We can't expect anybody else to do that. The saying, God helps those who help themselves. If it is to be, it's up to me, and it's up to every single one of us to be the divine intervention that we seek. And when we start being the divine intervention we seek, we will get more assistance from outside of us, because because of our prime directive, being, if the beings of light cannot intervene without us asking for help. I remember one of my spiritual teachers saying to me a few years ago that spirit meets us at the point of action. So it's up to us to begin taking that action. Once we start moving in the direction of that action, spirit joins up and assists us. We got to be the ones to get it started. So what I was seeing this morning is, I was watching a video this morning about all these things that are happening on the planet, and how things are in much more dire strait than anyone's willing to admit, because most of what's happening on the planet isn't talked about, because the media only talks about, it's like tidbits of irrelevant information. They're not telling the whole truth. I don't even know if the media knows the whole truth, because of the way the systems work. And so what I was sensing with us being the divine intervention we seek is that we have to start demanding that our governments change how they do business, that we need transparency about how our money is being spent. There's no such thing as free healthcare, which cracks me up when they say that, because it's not free. We're all paying for it. How is our money being spent? People deserve to know how the financial systems work, because very few people even know that there's a secondary money marketplace. We need to demand that. We need to demand that the people who are responsible for poisoning our air, poisoning our water, poisoning our food, poisoning our bodies are held responsible for their actions, because they have not been. They want us to be responsible for their actions. And so they keep saying the people are the reason that the planet is in the dire straits that it's in. They aren't. Well, sort of. What happens on our planet is a result of our collective consciousness. So we have unconsciously been allowing what's happening on our planet to play out, because we haven't demanded that the people responsible for making the mess, one, are held accountable, and two, have to clean up their own mess. And so we've been allowing this to continue, hoping somebody else will clean up the mess, hoping that a politician or our governments will somehow create legislation, or those massive corporations that are poisoning our planet will somehow change their ways. And I mean, they say they're greenwashing us and woke washing us and making us think that they're all lovely, when they're really not. They're not going to change their ways until we, the people, demand change. And demand that those who are responsible for creating the mess that our planet is in, that they're held responsible and accountable to their actions, and they just simply haven't been. So that's what divine intervention is. It's about us being the intervention that we seek. So how do we do that? It begins first with each one of us, creating circles, creating, I'm trying to think of the word. It's like, I guess, legislation that asks companies to be transparent, that asks our governments to be transparent. We want transparency in all things. We won't have conscious choice, and we have transparency in all things. So we, the people, need to demand transparency. And then we also need to be willing to accept the responsibility that comes with that transparency, because there's information that will come to the surface that people, quite frankly, are not going to want to hear. But if we want divine intervention, we have to be willing to accept that's what comes with it. And that we need to learn how to work together for the greatest good of all life on earth. And that's what the darkness fears most. The darkness fears us finding out how powerful we are when we stop fighting amongst ourselves and become unified in purpose, and unified in heart, and unified in spirit, and unified in demanding transparency and responsibility. And of those who have basically set themselves up as the ones who in a sense are responsible. They've set themselves up. It's these massive corporations they see it as, control. It's really responsibility. They need to be held accountable. And we need to start getting really, really clear about creating our own systems. Because when we start creating our own systems and we become our own divine intervention and all working together in harmony, that old stuff is eventually going to go away, because it's not sustainable. We need to be responsible for coming up with the solutions, because these massive corporations are not going to come up with real solutions. Their entire purpose is to continue to promote chemicals. I'm hearing this quote, better living through chemistry. It's really not. There's no better living through chemistry. We need to go back to restoring the planet and everything that we need, she has created for us. She sustains us, but we need to help restore her to who she really was, and demand that all these chemical experiments on humanity come to an end, because we are not petri dishes. We aren't we're not chemistry experiments, but that's what's been happening. And so enough of us need to demand transparency in all things, and then be willing to accept the responsibility that comes with it, because we are one humanity. We need to start working together for that one purpose. And so I'm not exactly sure what that looks like, because every one of us have unique roles on the planet. What I do know is that every single one of us has a unique role, and all of us are needed to make an impact. No one person is given all of the answers. No one person has all the techniques. No one person has all the gifts. We're all given bits and pieces of it, so that we have to work together, so that we together become our own intervention. And that we need to remember that. So for me, what I'm sensing is this is about each one of us reaching out to our circles and start asking for how can we be the divine intervention that we seek. And maybe it's creating like asking for bills to be passed that demand divine intervention, or creating where what speaks to these companies the very most is money, right? A collective lawsuit against these corporations that demands that those who've been poisoning our planet are held responsible, and that incredible amount of money that they have is then used to clean up the mess that they made. We need to demand accountability from our politicians, from these corporations, from the bureaucrats. We need to demand accountability, and then be responsible for being a part of the change that we want to see in the world, because it's not up to anybody else anymore. The systems have proven to us that it's up to us. There isn't a politician out there that's going to change the world. They all play for the same master, which is money. And there isn't a corporation out there. None of these great big corporations out there really have any interest in what's best for humanity, because they're driven by greed. So we need to band together and create our own solutions. And it might start small with just a half a dozen people, but it can spread like wildfire. I keep seeing the term I keep hearing is we need to love hack the airwaves. That every single one of us that have the ability to get on camera need to get on camera. And every one of us that have the ability to write need to write. And maybe it is about getting bills passed and creating these multinational lawsuits against these corporations to demand accountability, because none of this information is being given to the public, and it won't be until we ask for it. We need to have the courage and the stamina and the unity needed to bring all of this to the surface, so that we can create the world that we seek. Because we're at choice point. If we continue down the path that humanity has been going down, our planet will no longer be able to sustain us. Not by overpopulation. That's not even an issue. I mean, the people that the top want to say it's an issue. That's not an issue. The issue is these massive corporations that are destroying our planet. And it will get to the point where it can no longer sustain us. So there's that. On the flip side, is every person on earth then standing up, or as many of us as possible standing up to those massive corporations and saying, no, but we're not going to stand for that. We expect you to be held accountable for the mess that you've made, and we're going to create a new world. We can heal the planet. It's not too late. But we got to get on it now. And we need to stop expecting some regulations to be what cleans it up, because that's not going to happen. We'll just keep getting more of the same. So we need to find ways to unify. We need to find ways to make these corporations accountable for their actions. We need to let the world know that we, the people, are not the ones that are making the mess. They want to blame us so that we turn a blind eye to what's really happening. We deserve to know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And what we all know is that the truth will set us free. If we want to be free from this fear-based reality we've been living in, we must demand the truth and be willing to accept the consequences that come with those conscious choices once we have the truth. And I think humanity's mature enough to be able to do that. You know, there are people who have put themselves at the top who don't think that human beings are intelligent enough to make their own decisions. So the people up with the money need to be the ones to make the decisions for us. And I think that's not true. I think human beings are perfectly capable of making extraordinary choices when they're given enough truth to work with. And we need to no longer allow ourselves to be complacent, to be compliant, and instead have the courage to stand up and band together and actually do something about it. So about a year ago, I'm going to say February of 2020, I started seeing Ezekiel's ship coming into our field. And I thought, I was like, that's really interesting. I didn't even know that was a thing. It turns out that in the Bible, that actually was a spaceship. And some of those guys in the Bible actually did go up, right? And so he was coming around with his spaceship, and he said that they were going to help us create a new world. So what I was being shown this morning is that they have the technology to help us recreate our world, but we have to be the ones to demand the change and to demand the transparency. They're not going to do that for us. Once we intervene on our own behalf, then the guides, the guardians, spirit, the galactics, they can help us recreate our world, but we have to intervene on our own behalf first. And so they were showing me that they have the technology to completely change the way our world looks and assist us with cleaning up the mess. But I was being told that they're not going to do it for us. We have to clean up the mess that we've made. If we clean up the mess that we've made, they will assist us in recreating our worlds. But until we intervene on our own behalf, they can't interfere. Because conscious free will choice is the prime directive on our planet, nobody can interfere with our choices. Once we start moving that direction, they can assist us. So we have to be the ones to get that process started. And that may come through new legislation or come through, as I said, multinational lawsuits against these corporations that have become empires themselves. I call them these capitalist empires because there are only a few companies that run the entire planet. And we've allowed that to happen through blind compliance. We saw these companies buying each other up, and nobody really did much about that. And now here we are, where there's 4 chemical companies that run the entire food industry. And I don't think people realize that. And so we need to do something about that. We need to stop just allowing things to continue as they have been and step up and demand that this is no longer acceptable. It is no longer allowable. And the people who have been making the mess need to be held accountable, and they need to clean up the mess they've made, and not with more chemicals. Because as we know, that's what they keep doing. They just keep creating more chemicals and making more of a mess. And our planet can't handle much more of that. So, yeah, that's the message I've been getting this morning. It's about us being the divine intervention that we seek, and really acting like we are creating an intervention, and an intervention to the chemical addiction of our planet as a whole. So it's that same kind of thing where we're no longer willing to tolerate the pain and the suffering that comes with this addiction to chemicals, and we intervene on humanity's behalf. And that is going to be how we restore the planet, by each and every one of us stepping up and agreeing to be part of the divine intervention, and being the change we want to see in the world, and being responsible for the role that we play in changing the way things have been done, and creating new concepts. The brilliance of the human mind, we can create and clean up our world rather quickly, because there's so much brilliance on this planet. And we just need to lock arms together and facilitate that brilliance, and support each other, and stop depending on corporations and governments to take care of us, because they're not. They don't. It's all about the money. And that if we're going to change the world, it's up to each and every one of us to be the change, and to work together, lock arms, arm in arm, and intervene on our own behalf. And when we do, we'll have more help than we can even possibly imagine. We just have to be the ones to get it started. So that's my message for today, that we are the divine intervention that we seek. I thank you all for being here today, for participating in this conversation. Even if you're not participating out loud and you're seeing this days later, understand that this message is going out across the airwaves. And the way that the airwaves work on our planet is that even when we don't even consciously know we're being affected by messages, we are. We have one unified field across the planet. So anything that happens with one person affects the whole. So I'm doing my part for today that I know how to do, and that is helping to bring these messages forward, and hope that I inspire in all of you something inside of you, a spark inside of you, of how you can make a difference, and how you can begin to unify and be a part of the divine intervention that we desperately seek at this moment in time, as a collective of humanity and for all life on earth. Thank you, Mary, Kelly, Susan, for being here, for your beautiful notes. And all of you who are watching, who might not be participating in the chat, thank you for being who you are. And until next time, remember to hold your light so high that others can't help but see their own light. Mwah. Thank you, Susan. Have faith in humanity. I do too. I really think that we can pull this through. I really do. In fact, I know that we will. I know that we can, and it's up to us. How fast our role changes is up to each and every one of us, and the active role we decide to play. divine action. And the more we get involved and the more we become divine action, the faster we'll be able to create the world that we seek. Thank you so much for that, Susan. And until next time, mwah.